Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. May 8th, 2018.
The Cooner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
Okay, my friends, and now another liberal hypocrite falls. A stunning, stunning development with New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. Also at 12:35 in about 29 minutes, we're going to have Dinesh D'Souza on, exclusive newsmaker interview. Should Rosie O'Donnell go to jail the way Dinesh did for exceeding the cap on campaign contributions? We'll have Dinesh on at 12:35. Also at 2:05, Trump will make his official announcement whether he will be pulling out of the Iran deal. A massive decision, critical. We're going to have that as well. But first, hypocrisy, thy name is liberal, or in this case, Eric Schneiderman. So, my friends, listen now to this. This is a fall of absolutely epic proportions. The New York's state attorney general, essentially their equivalent of Holdit Morahili, has been a leading critic of Trump, a leading member of the hashtag resistance movement against Trump, a hashtag never Trumper. He's also a loud defender of the hashtag Me Too movement. He is the man, just so that you understand who Eric Schneiderman is. Eric Schneiderman is the man that was prosecuting Harvey Weinstein and vowed to put him in jail for all of the sexual misconduct, sexual assault, sexual harassment that he allegedly inflicted upon countless women. And so he would stand there on his soapbox, on his high horse, saying that the mistreatment, the sexual mistreatment of women, the sexual abuse of women was utterly unacceptable. And he staked his entire career and credibility as a champion of women's rights and of feminism. He also, by the way, is a key ally of Robert Mueller. Mueller has been leaning on Schneiderman, leaning on him heavily, to help him bring down Trump and Michael Cohen over the alleged Stormy Daniels affair. So Schneiderman is the man who's been basically playing point with Robert Mueller in sicking the FBI on Michael Cohen and saying that Trump's behavior with Stormy Daniels, a one-night stand, if true, 12 years ago with a washed-up porn star that was genuinely consensual, she says so herself, he said could lead to Trump's impeachment. Well, guess what? That was then, and this is now. Because today, Schneiderman is no longer the Attorney General of New York. He had to resign in the wake of a bombshell investigative report in The New Yorker, which documents that 4 women, 2 named, 2 unnamed, claim, and the New Yorker says they vetted these claims, and they say these are as solid can be, claimed that Schneiderman abused these women, all of them he had romantic relationships with, that he would beat them, he would choke them, he would spit on them. One of them, apparently, he hit her in the face and in the ear so hard, it took her months to recover. And that he engaged in non-consensual physical violence, especially once he had a few too many drinks, and they took it to the bedroom. When the story first broke, he claimed that this was sexual role-playing. That, sadomasochism, bondage, beating women, slapping women, that this was all sexual role-playing, it was private, it was intimate, but that the women wanted it. By the end of the night last night, he announced his resignation. And if you want to see how heinous some of these accusations are, listen to this. This is a sick man. This is a really sick man. This is the guy that was mocking Trump and mocking Harvey Weinstein and presenting himself as the champion of the hashtag #MeToo movement. Listen to this. He had multiple girlfriends. One of them was a woman named Tanya Silvaratnam. I'm mangling her last name, forgive me. But anyway, Tanya Silvaratnam. She was born in Sri Lanka, apparently educated at Harvard. She is a big liberal actress, a film producer, a staunch feminist activist. She had a 1-year sexual relationship with Schneiderman. She says that Schneiderman repeatedly would spit on her, choke her, slap her, beat her, and then he would call her, quote unquote, my brown slave. And as he was choking her in bed, calling her my brown slave, he would only stop choking her if she said she was his property, and she would call him my master. Now, initially, Schneiderman claimed that she liked it. She liked getting slapped. She liked getting choked. She liked the bondage sex. She liked being his quote-unquote brown slave in the bedroom. She came out and said that's not true. Quote, it wasn't consensual. This wasn't sexual play acting. This was abusive, demeaning, threatening behavior. He was cutting off my ability to breathe. She went on to say that Schneiderman would drink heavily. He'd pop some sedatives, throw her into the bed, and press her to drink as well, saying, drink your bourbon turnip, which was his nickname for her. And as she put it, quote, we could rarely have sex without him beating me. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Number one, just as an aside, and I have to say this, I know I'm going to get myself in trouble, but I'm going to have to say it. Why would a woman, and that's, I don't get this, and this comes from many of these, outspoken, loudmouthed liberal feminists like this Sri Lankan woman. Why would you put up with a man's physical abuse, sexual degradation for over a year? I'm sorry, I just don't get that. I have to say this. Where's your self-respect? Now, she says she reached out to some friends, and eventually after a year, some friends helped her get out of that abusive relationship. But there she is, leading the charge against Trump, going on about how women shouldn't take it, going on about I am a woman, hear me roar, and she puts herself in this kind of demeaning, degrading, disgusting sexual relationship. Why women put up with this, honestly, is beyond me. But let that go. The bigger point to me is this. You want to see liberal hypocrisy on full display? This is it. This is it. Here is a man who was on his high horse day after day, bragging that he would bring down Harvey Weinstein, chastising Weinstein for abusing women, harassing women, assaulting women, and yet in private did the exact same thing that he was accusing Harvey Weinstein of. The exact same thing that he was indicting Harvey Weinstein of. You want to talk about classic hypocrisy. This is it. I like this saying. I use it very often. Those in glass houses shouldn't cast stones. He was in the mother of all glass houses. That thing was so fragile. That thing was so frail. It was going to come collapsing all around him. And there he is, casting stone after stone after stone after stone. That, to me, is point number one. Point number two. This is the man that Robert Mueller is leaning on to go after Trump and his lawyer, Michael Cohen? This is one of Robert Mueller's top people that he's been coordinating with to go after Trump on the Stormy Daniels affair? say what you want about Donald Trump. Yes, it was, if it's true, it was a one-night stand. But I'll tell you this, Eric, he never beat her, he never choked her, and he never called her my slave. Say what you want about Trump and that night 12 years ago, whatever, at Lake Tahoe, that supposed one night stand. You know, Eric, he didn't slap her, he didn't punch her, he didn't spit on her, he didn't choke her, he didn't put her in chains, and he wasn't running around saying, I want threesomes, I want threesomes, I want threesomes. That's another thing that's come out. The women allege, as he beat him, and as he choked them, and as he was having sex with them, he kept insisting that they get another woman because he wanted threesomes because one of them was not enough. So say what you want about Donald Trump. I know you guys are out to get him, but at least he's not, putting him in a dog collar, choking him, and saying, I want my threesome, I want my threesome. You're my slave, you're my slave. The hypocrisy here, to me, is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And this is the man that Robert Mueller is cooperating and colluding with to go after Michael Cohen and Trump on Stormy Daniels? Are you kidding me? Now I've got to flip it on Robert Mueller. Who enabled him? You did. Who empowered him? You did. I want to know, what did Robert Mueller know about Eric Schneiderman's extracurricular activities, shall they say? Because President Trump on this one was proven an absolute prophet. An absolute prophet. 4.5 years ago, when he was still a private citizen, on September 11, 2013, this is what Trump predicted, and he predicted it to a T. Quote, September 11, 2013. Weiner is gone. Spitzer is gone. Next will be lightweight Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. Is he a crook? Wait and see. Worse than Spitzer or Weiner. Weiner was brought down sexting to minors. Elliot Spitzer's career was derailed because he was purchasing and sleeping with prostitutes. And now Schneiderman has been brought down because he was choking, slapping, beating, and spitting on women and saying they liked it. My friends, notice, the liberals accuse Trump of all of this sort of perversion and sexual crimes. Yet the only ones really engaging in perversion and sexual crimes are liberals like Anthony Weiner, Elliot Spitzer, or now Eric Schneiderman. My friends, the left has been exposed for the hypocrites and liars that they are. And you want to know why? I'm looking at this at another angle. I'm starting to understand why, because Schneiderman was a big anti-racist crusader in New York. He was one of the leading social justice warriors in New York. With him, it wasn't just hashtag Me Too, hashtag Me Too, hashtag Me Too. It was also race, 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 race. And I'm thinking, what is more vile and racist than having a Sri Lankan woman be degraded the way he degraded her in bondage, choking her and calling her my brown slave, and I want you to refer to me as your master? He's living out some kind of sick, racist fantasy upon this woman. You know why they're obsessed with sexual harassment and racism? Because deep down, like Schneiderman, they're the true racists. They're the true misogynists. They're the true sexists. And that's why they have to project it upon everybody else. Because they're dealing with their own sins. And instead of confronting them, they project them and smear everybody else. Exhibit A, Eric Schneiderman. Goodbye. There's the door. Adios, amigos. 617-266-6868. He's gone, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. What's your reaction to Eric Schneiderman's resignation? Does this show again the fundamental hypocrisy at the heart of liberals and most liberalism? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. 12:25 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, at 12:35 in just 10 minutes, we're going to have Dinesh D'Souza on in an exclusive Newsmaker interview. Rosie O'Donnell has surpassed the campaign contribution limits. In fact, multiple times. Dinesh went to jail for something similar. What will happen to Rosie? We'll discuss that. Also, breaking on the wires right now, sources close to French President Emmanuel Macron have now confirmed that Trump has now told Macron that we will be pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. An official announcement is expected today at 2:05. We will cover it. I promise you. Don't touch that dial. But first, New York's Attorney General, now accused of beating, spitting, and choking on women. Bondage sex that they did not want to have. Clearly, they say was non-consensual. One, a Sri Lankan woman, he choked her and called her my brown slave and wouldn't stop choking her until she called him my master. He has now resigned in disgrace. Does this show the fundamental hypocrisy of the hashtag #MeToo movement? He was the man leading the charge to indict Harvey Weinstein. 617-266-6868. George in Walpole. You're up first. Go ahead, George.
What I'm saying is this. Christ told us something profound. He said, judge not, you'll be judged. America was laid on Christian values. We are a nation where Christ told us in the gospel that we should not judge. If you judge, you will be judged. Now, those guys, they were judging Trump. Yet, turns out they are doing worse things than what Trump did. What Trump did was his past. If you can put yourself in the shoes of Trump, you can't even stand for a week. Because we're dealing with all these ladies. And he's a handsome man. They're after him, you know.
George, we can't hear your phone, but basically what you're saying is don't judge unless you want to be judged yourself. Look, that's Schneiderman. That's Schneiderman. And I mean, I don't want to repeat my opening monologue, but let's just assume the worst. Trump had a one-night stand, consensual. She said so herself, so she wanted to sleep with the guy 12 years ago, and they're trying to crucify him over that. Here you have the man who's leading the hashtag #MeToo movement to indict Harvey Weinstein, working with Robert Mueller to bring down Trump over the Stormy Daniels affair, Schneiderman, and now we find out, forget consensual one-night stand. He's hitting him, punching him, spitting on him, choking him, degrading him, demeaning him, calling one my brown slave, quote unquote. Are you kidding me? And you're judging Trump? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Arthur in Chestnut Hill, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
You know, what occurs to me, Jeff, that, you know, I thought Trump was a great deal maker, and to spend $130,000 for one night with that doesn't sound like to me a guy who should be lauded for the art of the deal. I mean, you know, you can watch him on a DVD, and you don't even have to watch for more than 3 minutes.
What do you make of Schneiderman, Arthur?
Well, first of all, he's another in the long line of Democratic liberal pigs going to Charlie Rose, Tom Brokaw, Kevin Spacey, Schneiderman, Weinstein, Cosby, Al Franken, John Conyers, Weiner, Spitzer, Kennedy. The list is endless.
Arthur, remember, don't forget Matt Lauer.
and Matt Lauer. That's right. But Charlie Rose, 30 more women came out against Charlie Rose, and don't tell me nobody knew about all this. You know what? But is that going to be the story every day? You know, a 12-year-old story, like it's sickening to even watch Stormy Daniels, and she's on night after night after night, followed by her shyster lawyer. It is incredible. And one quick thing on Rosie O'Donnell. Many aliases and fake names. I mean, if Dinesh D'Souza went to jail for 6 months or 8 months, she could go for 5 years. And it's about time we sent a message for this fraud that she put. And anybody, she's the poster child.
Arthur, thank you very much for that call. Okay, speaking of Dinesh D'Souza, we'll have him on right after this short news break. You don't want to miss it. But first, my friends, okay, big, huge breaking news. We will discuss at 2:05. President Trump is reportedly telling the French president he is going to withdraw the United States from the Iran deal. Evan Heidenrich is in the WRKO newsroom with all of those details. What are they, Evan?
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
12:35 here on the great WRKO, the voice of Boston, Jeff Cooner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, we've had him on before several times. You know him. You love him. He is the best-selling author and great filmmaker, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, thanks so much for coming back on the Cooner Report.
Hey, it's great to be on the show, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Dinesh, I've got to ask you straight out of the chute, my friend. You've got Rosie O'Donnell, who it now appears violated campaign finance laws at least 5 times, used multiple aliases, multiple addresses, clearly violated Federal Elections Commission law, and even by her own admission, and I know you know this better than I do, but I want to quote it to you. Here is what she told the New York Post, quote, "I don't look to see who I can donate most to. I just donate, assuming they do not accept what is over the limit. My anxiety is quelled by donating to those opposing Trump and his agenda, especially at night when most of these were placed." So she's basically saying, look, I cut checks. It's up to them to decide, these campaigns, if I'm giving them too much money. It's their problem. It's not my problem. I'm a never Trumper. My heart was in the right place. My question to you is a simple one. You had to go to jail for exceeding the cap on campaign contributions to your friend Wendy Long when she ran as the Republican Senate candidate. If you had to go to jail, why shouldn't Rosie O'Donnell?
Absolutely. In other words, when we think about the issue of justice, let's remember that justice is not a simple matter of did you break the law. You could be speeding on the highway, but if they give you a year in prison for that, it would be unfair. Why? Because other people don't get that. So justice is not merely a matter of did you exceed the campaign finance limit, but what do others who are similarly situated receive for doing it? I exceeded the campaign finance law, a single case involving a college friend of mine running for the Senate. I had never given to a political campaign before, so I was naive. But nevertheless, I did break the law, and I got a severe penalty. The Obama administration went after me, hammer and tongs. The Holder Justice Department, Preet Bharara in New York. So my point is, okay, the Rosie case is much more egregious than mine. 5 separate violations, by the way, in different jurisdictions. So there are all kinds of U.S. attorneys all over the country who can bring indictments against Rosie. And if that doesn't happen, it really shows us that justice is politically rigged in this country, because you have not only equivalent cases, but her case, as I say, is more outrageous than mine and shows the evidence of deceit. I mean, why would you use 4 names, spell your name 4 different ways, and then give 5 different addresses if you didn't know that you were breaking the law and you were trying to conceal it?
Dinesh, so far as I speak to you, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, CNN, ABC, No one has covered this story. No one. And so I've got to ask you, do you think the reason why they went after you and they're refusing so far to go after Rosie O'Donnell, is it because you're a conservative and she's a liberal? It's because you are anti-Hillary, she's pro-Hillary. Is it because you're a constitutionalist and she's a progressive? Is that the ultimate reason in your view?
Yes, that is not only, it's the ultimate and it's the only reason. Now, I wouldn't have said this, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. In the 1980s, when I first cut my teeth in politics, there was a sort of a gentleman's agreement that politics is about differences of opinion and that we don't try to put our opponents in jail. So Reagan would never think of putting Michael Moore in jail or sending the IRS after him. And I don't think Jimmy Carter would do that to me either. So what's happened is that the Democratic Party has become gangsterized. These Alinskyites, Obama, Hillary, essentially saw the government as a kind of thug operation that they could operate using the weapons of the state, using the IRS, using the FBI, the CIA. I mean, it's happening to Trump. You see the inequity of treatment between Trump and Hillary, and in a much smaller scale, the cases of Rosie and me illustrates exactly the same thing in a sense, in miniature.
Dinesh, in your view, should Rosie go to jail?
Yes, she should go to jail because she, in general, with these campaign finance laws, and we can debate whether we should have these limits. In some ways, as I think you know, there are ways around them. You can give money through a PAC and so on. But we do have the laws. The laws were ruthlessly enforced against me, a conservative. And so it looks to me like if you're going to have the laws and you're going to enforce them with this kind of single-minded pursuit, then here is not only an offender, but a repeat offender. So by and large, the campaign finance laws are violated particularly egregiously if A, you're trying to buy favors. Now, Rosie wasn't trying to do that. Or B, if you keep doing it, and Rosie was doing that. Rosie is a chronic offender, and so the case for prosecuting her is 5 times greater than the case for prosecuting me.
Dinesh, I hate to put it to you this way because I have so much respect for you, but I've got to ask you this question. This question comes really from the heart, from my heart. Do you feel, in some sense, that you've been a sucker? And what I mean by that is you're a great American. You came to this country. You've written best-selling books. You're a very principled man. You've always tried to abide by the law. You made a mistake, campaign finance violation. They threw the book at you. They sent you to prison. Your left-wing opponents libel you and smear you, calling you felon, felon, felon. They mock you mercilessly. And yet, here you are, and you're staring at Rosie O'Donnell, who has committed 5 times the crime that you did, and yet she's considered a hero on the left. They glamorize her, they glorify her, they defend her, and yet you spent months in prison. Do you feel deep down like a sucker, that you're basically a victim of the weaponized justice system?
Well, I do feel that I was selectively prosecuted. I don't feel, I mean, I know. Look, a congressional oversight committee now has my file. Typically, it's redacted, which is to say, a lot of the crimes that probably the government committed in finding out about my case have been blacked out, because we know now that the FBI blacks out things not because they endanger national security, but because it exposes their hand in the cookie jar. But one of the things, interestingly, that's not blacked out in my file is a red flag that basically says this guy is a right-winger and a prominent critic of the Obama administration. So when I saw that, the thought that passed through my mind is, why the heck is that in my FBI file? If I'm an ordinary guy who broke the law, why are they highlighting my politics? If not, that the FBI is signaling to the Holder Justice Department, hey, we got one for you. This is something you're going to like. This is the guy you're going to want to go after. And the FBI immediately allocates $100,000 to investigate my $20,000 case. So anyone looking at this, including the congressman who saw my file, they know this is highly abnormal behavior. So the Comey FBI, totally corrupt. And so for me as an immigrant, it has been dismaying to see that all the civics book lessons that I learned about, better that 9 guilty guys go free, then one innocent guy be prosecuted. Lady Justice is blind, blah, blah, blah. In reality, that's not always the case.
Dinesh, do you think President Trump should pardon you?
I will take a pass on that question, not because you don't know the answer. Obviously, you know the answer. I think all your listeners know the answer. I just think it is it is not right for me to ask for a pardon, and so I'm not doing it. There are lots of people who believe in my cause who are doing it, and there are people who are sort of, you may say, putting the case to Trump. So what he'll do, I don't know. But the reason I'm staying out of it is I think it is unseemly for me to be cold campaigning for my own pardon. So I'm not doing it.
Dinesh, I respect that 100%. As you know, I've been a big defender of yours, and I'm urging the president to do the right thing. He should definitely issue a pardon immediately. Dinesh, I have to ask you very quickly, the Eric Schneiderman development. To me, I look at you and Rosie O'Donnell, I see a classic case of liberal hypocrisy. They went after you for one minor violation. She does 5, and they leave her alone. Here you have New York's state attorney general. He's going to resign by the end of today, but technically he's still the attorney general, who was the leading champion of the hashtag Me Too movement in New York, vowing to put Harvey Weinstein in prison, stood there and said you can never mistreat or assault or engage in sexual abuse of women. Now, according to the New Yorker piece, 4 women, 2 named, 2 unnamed, say he beat him, he assaulted him, he choked him, he spit on him. One, that poor Sri Lankan woman, he called her a brown slave, quote unquote, and said, you know, basically you have to call me master. What do you make of Schneiderman? And does this expose the further hypocrisy at the heart of the left?
Yes, it does. It's absolutely, I think it's so revealing that all these progressive, predators, all are champions of equality and social justice and women's rights. In fact, they're in the forefront of those movements. Now, on the one hand, you must wonder what's going through their brain. And I think what's going through their brain is, hey, we found the perfect political cover. The precedent for this, by the way, was set by Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton essentially proved that if you are a left-wing predator and you run around with signs that say Planned Parenthood, women's rights, etc., that these feminists, these so-called feminists, the biggest hypocrites themselves, will actually become your pimps. And they will actually defend you, and they will actually save your neck when you are up for impeachment. So the Bill Clinton precedent was then picked up by a whole series of guys, including Harvey Weinstein and now Schneiderman. They all thought they had an immunity because, after all, they were 4 women. So how could they possibly be held responsible for their own disgraceful behavior?
Dinesh, I know we're up against it, but I've got to ask you one final question. This is a very personal question. Having spent several months in jail, by the way, I saw your documentary. I loved it. I think it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. And you were very open about your experience. But I've got to ask you this. Now that the 2016 election is over, now that we helped to defeat Hillary Clinton, you were proved prophetic on everything you said about her and the Obama regime. The fact that you still have a criminal record, has that hurt you in sense of professionally, getting book contracts, getting jobs? In other words, what they did to you, has that continued to have lingering effects, lingering damage on your professional or your personal life?
Well, yes, in all kinds of ways. I mean, first of all, when you're a felon, it affects you in ways that you wouldn't think of. Not only the obvious ways, like I can't vote, I can't, for example, own a gun, but also in other ways. If I travel abroad, I sometimes have to get a visa. I have to actually get permission from a judge to leave the country. I'm still under probation. In fact, I'm doing this interview with you from my community service. I have to spend 8 hours a week, which is one whole day, one whole work day a week in community service. And this goes on for 5 years. So what I'm saying is they have done what they could to try to paralyze or immobilize me in order to reduce my effectiveness. Now, frankly, if I was a normal person, and by that I mean if I worked in a bank, I couldn't hold a job because you can't, there's no normal job in America where you can tell them, look, 1 day a week I've got to go to community service for 8 hours. So I can only put in a 4-day week. So that the Obama administration, the Justice Department, all these guys have in a sense won in that they've tried to tie my hands. No, they haven't hurt my book contracts. In frankness, they haven't done that. They haven't stopped me from making movies, but they certainly tried, and they have hurt me in ways that are almost invisible in the general sense. I mean, difficult for me to get life insurance because I'm a felon. So there are ways in which the felony charge does haunt you. And it's not until October of next year that I complete my probation and will be not a free man, but a partially free man after that.
Dinesh, what can I do to help you? Well, I mean, really, no, seriously, the audience loves you. I love you. What can I do to help you, Dinesh? Let me put some money in your pocket, my friend. Is there a website people can go to? Is there a book coming out? Where can people go to help you and read some more of your material?
Well, this August 3rd, we are actually launching a big movie. It's called Death of a Nation. I'll have an accompanying book of the same title. And so, this is a big year, the midterm year. A lot is at stake. We're in the editing process now of what will be a bombshell movie coming out in August. And so I would urge people, if you want to help me, pick up the book, but more importantly, go see the movie on opening weekend. That's really important because you put fuel into our jet. If a movie does well on opening weekend, it expands to even more theaters the next week. And so seeing it, not waiting for it to come out in DVD, but seeing it right away in the theater opening weekend, that's a great way to help.
Dinesh, I don't want you to give everything away, but just a little tease. What is Death of a Nation about?
In a nutshell, it is about the two incendiary accusations that have been launched against Trump and the conservatives. The first is the accusation of white supremacy. The second is the accusation of fascism. And these two accusations have paralyzed the political debate in our country because the basic idea is Trump and the Republicans are evil people, and we, the left, can use any means necessary to get rid of them, whether it's Stormy Daniels or the Mueller investigation or Antifa. We can disrupt free speech. We can break up the inauguration. This is like fighting Hitler in 1933. So we take on this question: who are the real racists? Who are the real fascists? Who are the real white supremacists? That's the premise of this movie.
Dinesh, I want to get a commitment from you right now, my friend. You're going to come on this show when your book comes out?
Done.
All right, you got it. God bless you, my friend. Stay strong. Dinesh, if there's anything else you need from me, you let me know, my friend.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. Dinesh D'Souza, best-selling author, movie maker, filmmaker. The book is going to be coming out soon, Death of a Nation. So let me ask you, you heard it straight from Dinesh. There is a blatant double standard between the way he was treated and now Rosie O'Donnell. A, should Rosie go to jail? Number one. Number two, should Donald Trump pardon Dinesh D'Souza? I say yes. What do you say? All of your calls next.
WRKO.
Dinesh, in your view, should Rosie go to jail?
Yes. She should go to jail because she, in general, with these campaign finance laws, and we can debate whether we should have these limits. In some ways, as I think you know, there are ways around them. You can give money through a PAC and so on. But we do have the laws. The laws were ruthlessly enforced against me, a conservative. And so it looks to me like if you're going to have the laws and you're going to enforce them with this kind of single-minded pursuit, then here is not only an offender, but a repeat offender.
That, of course, was author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza. Tune in for the WRKO box office cue to call Thursday on the 30s at 8:30, 2:30, and 5:30 for your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Dead & Company Wednesday, May 30th at 7 p.m. at the Xfinity Center. For tickets and information, visit livenation.com. Okay, my friends. Should Rosie go to jail? If it was good enough for D'Souza, for Dinesh, it should be good enough for Rosie. And should President Trump pardon Dinesh D'Souza? I say yes on both questions. What do you say? Tony in Gloucester, you're up next. Go ahead, Tony.
Hi, Jeff.
Tony, how are you, my friend?
God, I talked to you for a while. I'm listening, but I always wanted to say, the only way this gets covered by the news is if Trump tweets it. Trump is doing the job of the reporters. He's doing the news. So what I'd like to see happen is during the next Sarah Sanders press conference, President Trump come out, sit there between, like, say, CNN and maybe, NPR, and start asking questions, just like a reporter, so maybe we'll get some truth out there. What do you think?
I agree with you. Tony, do you think Trump will pardon Dinesh?
I'd love to see him do it. I'd love to see him first go after Rosie O'Donnell, and then, just to get him, pardon Dinesh.
Amen, brother. Thank you for that call, Tony.
Take care, Jeff.
Tom in New Jersey, you're up next. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Jeff, God bless you. Awesome interview. Dinesh D'Souza is a wonderful, wonderful patriot. And I think we should get like 1 million signatures, Jeff, to ask President Trump to please pardon him. I think that's a no-brainer. But, Jeff, I want to also move in a different direction.
Go ahead, Tom. We've only got 1 minute, so go. Make your point.
That long list that our good man Arthur from Chestnut Hill gave us, I want to add a couple more people to that list. Robert Mueller and Eric Schneiderman. Jeff, what these are thugs, bullies, and morally depraved, spoiled brats that have all grown up to be heinous monsters. I want President Trump to meet with Mueller, look that devil in the eye, and say, your ass is fired, and we'll all stand behind him and let them try to impeach our president, and they're going to hear from the American people.
Amen. Thank you for that call, Tom. Well said. Okay, coming up next, now the mainstream media turned their guns on Melania Trump. What the hell is going on? That story, more with your calls next.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.